Welcome back to SEC Media Days in Dallas. We're getting closer to the start of the season. Our coverage is brought to you in part by Barnes Crossing Auto Group. Check out bcautoplex.com and explore over 1,500 vehicles across 17 rooftops at Barnes Crossing Auto Group. Nobody walks away because everybody saves. Jordan Rodgers joins us, SEC Network, ESPN, former SEC quarterback, good-looking guy, always dapper. What's up, man?
What's going on?
Good to see you.
You too, man.
The quarterback class this year in the SEC, I feel like it's different than it was a year ago. I think we know a lot at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Beck at Georgia, Jaxson Dart, Ole Miss. Jalen Milroe, that's a guy that I'm really fascinated to see what his development looks like year over year. I thought he came a long way during the year, a season ago. Everybody's left with the bad taste in their mouth from Michigan.
Totally.
But what does this staff, led by Kalen DeBoer, do with him from a development standpoint?
Yeah, I hesitate to say it's concerning, but when I go back and watch it, there's not a more of a nightmare to game plan against than Jalen Milroe, right? Because of the athleticism. I think he was also one of the best deep ball throwers in the entire country last year, especially with pressure in his face. So he does some things really well. When I go watch Washington from the last couple of years, the thing that stands out with Michael Penix Jr. is how frequently he played on time and in rhythm. And that's something that Jalen Milroe really struggles with. Held on to the ball the third longest in the entire country, in the entire FBS last year. Part of that is great. You want him to buy time and make plays when he can. But if he's not able to get the ball out in rhythm on a three-step and that thing come out, or five and a hitch and that ball comes out on the dig routes, the glances, the seams, this offense is going to struggle to find consistency because they need a quarterback that can attack the middle of the field, that 10 to 20-yard range, on time and in rhythm, and I think that's one part that Jalen has just been a little slower to develop and didn't need to as ton last year because they used his athleticism so much and they ran the ball, they play action, took shots, but DeBoer is going to want to be more consistent in the passing game, so that tells me he's going to have to be better. Milroe's going to have to be better pre-snap at understanding, okay, I got five guys. These two I'm not even going to, so I'm just looking at these 1, 2, 3 as opposed to going, okay, I got five guys. Where am I going with the football? You're never going to be successful playing quarterback if you got that much going on in your head.
Not many quarterbacks are blessed with the rocket arm, great in the pocket, but also have the ability to make plays with their feet and understand when to do which.
Yeah.
How do you teach that?
It's not easy, right? I mean, because you don't want to – the balance is you don't want to coach the athleticism and the playmaking out of a quarterback, right? But I think it's situationally just knowing, hey, this is a concept that we're not trying to hit a home run on. We're just trying to get 5 or 6 or 7 on a second down to get us into a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 2. So I think it's more situational understanding than it is like changing how you play the quarterback position. It's going, okay, this concept, I'm not trying to hit the home run. If they give me man coverage and I got my best receiver out there, great, I'll take a shot. But if not, let's be happy getting 6, 7, 8 yards or checking it down and moving the sticks.
Speaking of coaching things out of players, one of Jaxson Dart's best attributes is toughness, but also maybe at times a little too tough, taking unnecessary hits. How do you tell a guy to rein that in some?
Yeah, you just show him highlights of Robert Griffin's career in the NFL, right? I mean, show him highlights of guys that took too many chances and didn't have an opportunity to continue playing at a high level for a long time. That's easier, I think, than the coaching out of Milroe and playing on time. Is you can show a lot of clips to a quarterback and go, you don't need to take this hit because you're going to go make a lot of money at the next level. Let's protect that. Jaxson, I have him rated as my second quarterback in the entire SEC. I think really highly of him. I thought the most impressive thing he did last year, aside from just protecting the football, cut his interceptions, from 11 down to 5, but a lot of people confuse accuracy and completion percentage with ball placement. And he was accurate last year, but his ball placement took a huge jump from 22 to 23, especially those back shoulder throws to the perimeter to Trey Harris, up and over the top, the intermediate seam routes and where he was placing those. He looked like a guy that was just in complete command of where he wanted to place the ball. Not I want to complete this. Yeah. I'm going to put it here so my guy can run after the catch. Or this looks covered, but if I put it here, we have an opportunity.
We are visiting with Jordan Rodgers, obviously a former quarterback in the SEC. What about Blake Shapen? The transfer from Baylor, headed to Mississippi State. I tend to think that there's a little more ability with feet than people realize.
Totally.
But I also don't know about depth at the QB spot for Mississippi State in terms of can they take chances with him running the football, because what do they do if something happens to him?
Yeah, and that's one of those scenarios where that was kind of me as a quarterback is when I first took over at Vandy, we used my legs a lot more. I remember looking back because I was kind of watching some film on Vanderbilt and their New Mexico State offense, and I was like, kind of reminds me of when I was at Vandy. I carried the ball 117 times in 8 games down the stretch.
Wow.
So I was running 15, 16 times a game because that's kind of all we could do. And really when you're in desperation mode, Shapen's not going to be here for 4 years, right? You want to try to turn this thing around and get some momentum going. So I think they're going to use him however they can and however they need to. But look, he's familiar with the offense. They don't have a ton of depth up front. They don't have a ton of returning depth at wide receiver. They lose Xavier Thomas. But Jeff Lebby is a guy that can create advantages. And I kept going back. And when this job opened, I think there was one or two guys, really two guys, I think it was Jed Fish or Jeff Lebby, that I wanted in this position. Because when you're at Mississippi State, similar to when I was at Vandy, you're never going to step on the field in an SEC game and be more talented. That's just a fact. And maybe they'll get to a point, Mississippi State, where they do have enough talent to step on the field. At Vandy, we never had that opportunity. But you're going to have to win with scheme. You're going to have to win with design. And I don't think there's a better play caller outside of Lane Kiffin right now in the SEC and maybe Sark that are better at those in-game.
Those three are pretty good ones.
And those in-game adjustments. There's a lot of good play callers. But those guys, they have the ability in-game to go, here's what I see. We don't even really have this concept. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and we're going to attack it next drive. Not like next week or not like in the second half. Like those guys are so good in game. So Jeff Lebby, Mississippi State, Blake Shapen, they're going to be talented enough that they're going to win one or two that we're like, wait, I don't think they had a chance that game.
You know, it's funny you say that about Lane Kiffin. One of the things that I've watched him and has been really interesting is when you see him get excited on the sideline, he gives you the big fist pump. It's not so much because they scored a touchdown. He likes that part of it, but he had the perfect play call against the perfect defense. And the maddest that I have ever seen, it was actually at a game at Vanderbilt. Going into halftime, they had the perfect call against the perfect defense and missed it. And I don't know that I've ever seen him fuming like he was there.
You know, it was so funny. We asked Jaxson this last year at one point, just kind of about that in-game relationship and those moments where Lane knows he's dialed up something perfect. And Jaxson was saying, like, sometimes, and he made a specific reference to a game that now has escaped me, but he's like, there was a game this year or last year where he called a play that we have literally never ran out of that formation and that personnel group, and we haven't even ran that concept since last year. But he saw something in game, and he gives the sign from the previous year, and Jackson's like, wait, he's like, oh, well, yeah, I know what that, wait, we haven't practiced that, and it ended up being a touchdown. So that's just how those unique minds, like I said, I think Sark's one of those guys, especially at Alabama, is when I first really noticed how great he was at those in-game adjustments and play calls. Kiffin and Lebby, those guys are special in those moments.
And you got to have a veteran quarterback, a guy that you've been with a long time to be able to do that.
Yeah, because otherwise that young quarterback's going, what are you trying to call?
I think I'm told that you have to go. We appreciate the time.
Awesome, man.
Great visiting with you, and look forward to seeing you this fall.
Sounds good.
Visiting with Jordan Rodgers from the SEC Network, talking quarterbacks. Fun conversation there. We've got more coming up as we continue from SEC Media Days.